Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hi, welcome to Be My Guest. This is Jan Lewis. Today we have one of our own right here in Upton. She is the author Sue Lovejoy. Sue, do you want to be called Sue or Susan? Which do you prefer?
Anything at all.
Sue Lovejoy, and she has written 2 books. Welcome, Sue. Love Gramma, and this is a grandmother's advice on life, love, and finding yourself. Isn't that is so, oh my God, so much needed. Our family spirits, stories based on real paranormal experiences. This is a perfect time of the day. By the way, happy Halloween, everybody. Watch out, you little guys going out there. Watch out for the cars. Be careful. Make sure you don't eat anything that's not wrapped, okay? Make sure it's wrapped. Have Mom and Dad check it out. So, Sue, these are your first major published books, right? This is her first time out. This is fantastic. Now, she's going to have copies of these over at the Upton Town Library. Okay, you can, the dedicated local authors section, feel free to go on over, take a look at the books. So when did you start writing these? Or were they one by one was first, what happened on that?
Love Gramma was the first one.
Okay.
Because it was during when COVID first hit. And I kept thinking, what happens if I die before the grandkids grow up? And they were all young teenagers at the time. And I said, I need to... At first I thought I'd do a video for them. Yeah. And then I said, no, you know what? I'm going to write that book that I've always thought about writing. So I sat down and I started doing chapter by chapter, and I started organizing it and saying, well, what do I want to talk to them about when they're young parents? Or what do I want to talk to them about cooking? Yeah. Or your first apartment? Or all the different things that you'd want to give them advice on. And so I started putting it together. And at the time, you had introduced me to the Sutton Writers Group.
Lisa Shea over at Sutton.
Yes.
Shout out to Lisa.
And so I talked to them. After I had all the chapters finished, I was attending one of the meetings online, and I said to them, I'm ready. I'm ready to publish this. So Lisa helped me with the cover, and we got it published.
So you and Lisa did the cover.
Yes.
And it's self-published.
Yes.
Great, good for you. She has done a wonderful job. If you look at the table of contents, Love Grandma. Table of contents, I love this. You kept it so simple. And to me, that is like heaven on earth. Some authors just they just go through it. You've got to really go back and write down what the chapters are about. Chapter 1, Parents. What was that all about?
Chapter 1 is about dealing with your own parents. And I've talked about dealing with my parents and how you have to cut them some slack. You know, when you're a teenager, everything they do is wrong, everything they say is wrong, everything they wear is wrong, their hair is wrong. Yeah. So it's about becoming more aware of your parents and what part they play in your life, and just having a little bit more patience with them. You've got to grow up in order to leave and be on your own, so you have to learn what you can from them.
Yeah, and also when later in life we become a parent, it's like, oh yeah, I remember Mom used to say that. Boy, I was lucky though. I had a very nurturing mother. I mean, that's from least what I hear these days. That's kind of unusual.
Yeah.
But she was there, and boy, I learned a lot from her and from Dad too. School, oh God help us. What happened to you with some of the things at school?
Well, I talked to them about how you have to go to school. You know, you may not like it. I didn't enjoy it except for the social aspect. I loved the social part of high school. I love that. Yep. That's when I blossomed socially. But as far as enjoying the coursework, it was only if I was very interested in it, then I enjoyed it. All my English courses, I loved them. Give me a math class, and I was snoozing through it.
My twin. Oh, God, no. You got through high school with your math? You just made it through? You didn't have to have a tutor or anything?
Oh, no tutors.
I was in my sophomore year, the worst year. And just like you, English, the other stuff, fine. And social, big one. But the math at the school I went to they were very tough. If you don't get that, if you don't at least pass with a D, they have this wrong, but I think they said you're going to be staying back. You can't be with your class. Dad did it. My parents got a tutor, a senior up the street. She was one. She reached me. We got through it. I passed it, but even in college when I was accepted, the administrator said to me, "You're not going to do well in college math." It was like a warning. And he was right. I could not get that grade point up. It was like that. Finally said, "The heck with this. I'm not going to use it anyway." Now she has love. How'd that go?
That was talking about first love, when you fall in love, what you look for. I always advised my boys to wait till they were almost 30 to get married, because I said you change so much from 20 to 30.
Yep.
And when you change who you are, who you're going to need as a partner, what you're going to be looking for in a relationship. So my advice to them was take your time, grow up a little bit, get settled in life. And I told the grandkids the same thing. Find out who you are first before you commit to somebody else.
I agree, because I led basically a gypsy life until I finally was married and had a child. But by then, I had had so many years as a free spirit that and I'd taken care of lots of children too, because in between broadcasting all this, I had been a nanny. And I had learned a lot. So that's work. Oh, God forbid. Work. How did that go for you?
One of the things that I advise the kids, and I still do that in person to them, is when they're going out and getting their part-time jobs, I say to them, you're not going to be able to walk in and be a CEO, so let's get that off the table. Find something in every job you do that you love. You don't have to love the job, but find something about every single job that you enjoy. So it makes it so that you're willing to go to work and you're happy to go to work. And then if you want to look for something else more fulfilling, then you do that, but at least you're making money in the interim.
You're sending a great message. Because my mother was like that. It was like, you get a bee in your bonnet, you better go take care of it, because she knew I'd be miserable. So when I remember one job in particular, I was absolutely miserable. I would dread going, I'd feel sick going. I quit and went on to something else. It just wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
It just wasn't worth it. Your own person, I love that.
So that chapter is about growing into yourself, finding out what makes you happy, what you're interested in, not what your mother says you're interested in, not what your father says you should be interested in, not what your boyfriend or girlfriend says you should be interested in. It's what's inside you, what makes you happy as a person.
Right.
What you find fulfilling, what you find interesting and challenging.
Did your parents push you to go to college?
No.
I don't think push, but urge you. It was just understood that you're going.
See, not in our family.
But I didn't know. I wish I hadn't, or at least not yet, because all the girls were doing what, elementary ed? Okay, so I started with that. Well, that's boring. My roommate was an artist. I said, that looks cool. So I shoved aside the other and just jumped into the art. Sometimes it takes us a long time to find out what we like. And sometimes there's so many interests, right?
And so many different avenues.
Sue, not only is she an author, and she's also a crafter. Wait till you see these cool animals that she has crafted. Sue, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, I have a website, susanblovejoy.com, and I also have an email, lovejoysusanb@gmail.com.
And if somebody would like you to come and appear or speak, same thing?
Same thing.
Same thing. We're talking with Sue Lovejoy, and she has written 2 books, one called Love Gramma, A Grandmother's Advice on Life, Love, and Finding Yourself. Beautiful cover. Beautiful, absolutely. Have you been over at Tatnuck yet?
No, I have not.
Boy, there's so many places. Senior centers, too, obviously. Senior centers, they have grandchildren. They've been their grandparents as well. Fantastic, perfect book for that. Now, independent living. Sounds like seniors. What do you think about that?
What I did was I wrote that for them for that part of their life where they get their first apartment. And the things that they need to be able to do in order to have that independence. And one of them was do your own laundry, how to cook, basic cooking skills, cleaning skills, what you need to clean in order to live in a hygienic house. Some kids don't get any of that training. Some of them don't experience that, or they've never had to be on their own. So for me, that was really important that I put that chapter out there.
Did you go through that too, that you had to learn early in life all how those was okay?
Yep, I was on my own at 19.
Wow.
So I went to nursing school for a year, I was an LPN, and then right after that I moved and got an apartment.
Nursing school, did you do that, Sue? Have you been a nurse ever since then?
No, I was an LPN for a few years till I had children, and then my first husband died, so it was a choice I made to stay home with the boys and not give up weekends and holidays.
And you have 2 sons?
Yes.
2 sons. Did they listen to your advice about waiting until they were 30?
They did. They were both almost 30 when they got married.
And you have grandchildren.
I do.
How many?
I have 5.
Oh my God, how old are they?
They're 24 is the oldest, and the youngest is 15.
Wow. Okay, mine are little munchkins kind of now, but hi out there. I know that sometimes they watch Grandma Jan. I'm sorry. One's going to be 12 this month. The other one is 10. And then the other littlest one, she's going to be 3 next month. So here's a big one. Now, my parents weren't big on teaching me about finances, unfortunately. They gave me a checkbook at college. And, well, you know what bookstores are like. This was basically for books class. But then they have all the stuff like the sweatshirts and everything. I just had a ball with the checkbook. They were terrific. You know, they didn't yell at me, nothing like that. They just kind of realized, maybe she shouldn't be let loose with the checkbook. So that was taken away. Good for them. That was a smart move. How did you handle finances?
I learned on the go. I learned on the go for myself. When I wrote the chapter, it was advice on learning to balance a checkbook. They needed to know that when their income is less than what they're spending, they have to dial it in and figure out how they're going to pay off the excess that they've charged or spent before they can start proceeding to buy anything else.
Damn, you're good.
Well, I wish somebody had taught me that when I was growing up.
Now, I would try. I would hear, gee, they say balance this. All right, so let's say I charged $50. And then you have to, okay, so this was what was in. Let's say 100 was in there. Minus 50 would be 50 left. But then it would go up and down, and I'd be like, oh, it would be like a doodle pad.
I've talked to grown-ups that have told me that they balance their checkbook against what's online, what shows online.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, you're seriously not considering everything else you've written
Right.
in the meantime that you're not that the bank can't account for. So yeah, it made me really aware that I need to really be clear in there.
Life as a grown-up? What do you think? Are we all still grown up, or are we still like, we don't age, we youthen? What do you think?
I think we just enjoy
Yeah.
whatever
What's
mood
old?
we're in.
Growing old, I mean, nowadays, like, you know, I've talked millions of times, if you look at those obituaries on Sunday, 90s to 100s,
Yeah.
and it's wonderful. I love it. Grandma's favorite recipes. You'd pass that on to the kids, too.
I did, yeah. I wanted to give out some recipes that would be easy and fun. I even included one from the 1970s, the grasshopper pie recipe.
Yeah.
And I've had people that I know, other grown-ups, call me up and say, I'm using that recipe section, you know. And I was like, oh, good.
No. Speaking of stuffed animals, one just got loose.
He just
Before we
escaped.
go to the next book, that we're talking Sue Lovejoy, and she has also written stories based on real paranormal experiences, our family's spirits. Did you do the cover also?
I did that cover. Well, it was a picture I got off of a site.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, it's perfect. Now, we're going to talk about that in just a minute, but we're going to switch here. Sue Lovejoy, you're going to see her at the Bloomer Girls, Blackstone Valley, the craft
Fair.
The craft fair. Coming up, when is that coming up?
This Saturday.
This Saturday, November
4th.
Yeah, 4th. And these are, where did you see them? Show us what you made.
All right, so I've made my little foxy man.
Is it knitted? How do you do it?
He's crocheted.
It's crocheted.
Yep, and he was 2-piece. He was multi-pieces. You crochet different. The ears differently, the legs, arms, the tail, and then you just sew it all together.
Yeah.
So he's part of my critter coalition, and then, of course, my little banana boy. I love the monkeys. The monkeys are my favorite. And then I have a section called Gnomes, Holiday Gnomes. This is my candy cane gnome.
I love that. Oh.
What I do is I look around for pictures that inspire me, and then I create a critter from it. I use a basic Scandinavian gnome pattern, and then but this is my gingerbread gnome, and I put little sprinkles in his beard, because he's a messy
How long does it
eater.
take you to make one?
Oh, this guy, because I was making him as I was planning him, so I was creating as I was going. He took a few hours to get it right.
I would think it would be like days.
Oh, no. It takes me a few hours to make one. Because, like I said, the pattern's basic, and then it's figuring out, well, how am I going to get the frosting to look like frosting on the edges? And, put frosting on the top, and get the gingerbread look on the legs and everything. Foxy I've made before, so he was just a basic pattern.
She's got them all tucked in beside her there. So now, If somebody would like to purchase your crafts, if they can't make it to the upcoming fair, how can they reach you?
They can contact me at my email address, lovejoysusanb@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to talk
great.
to them. I make a lot of special order things, like I've made baby blanket kits with the baby blankets and the hats and the booties.
Are you, do you have a website at all?
I do.
You do?
SusanBLovejoy.com.
Okay, lovejoy.com. And you'll see a lot of these aren't the only things you make, though.
No, I make hats and...
Yeah, because when you were at the craft fair we tried to have at my house, you had some other things too. What were those?
Jewelry. We made jewelry.
Yeah.
My sister and I used to make jewelry years ago.
Will you be doing that for the fair coming up?
No, I'm going to keep it just strictly the crocheting.
I can imagine that when the parents go by and the grandparents, and they see all these adorable things you've made, the craft, they're going to be like, if it was like me when I was growing up, like, I want that one, I want that one. Oh, gosh,
here's
yeah.
one I forgot. This is
the zebra.
This is a zany zebra, and he's one. I didn't like their mane or their tail, so I made my own. But he's the smallest one that I make. And I made him for a little girl a while ago, and she loved it. And I made her a matching hat so that she and the zebra matched.
I would think, now, your grandchildren, the youngest one is how old, 15?
15.
Okay, a little bit old for that now, but I think that would go over like crazy with the little kids, just seeing them.
Even my grandkids, when I made them animals 2 Christmases ago, when I started really making the amigurumi, I said to them, all right, tell me your favorite color and your 2 favorite animals.
Yeah.
And then I surprised each one of them with an animal in one of the colors that they liked, in the animal that they liked.
Custom made.
Custom
People
made.
like those and they want them in a custom, you would be willing to do
Oh,
that?
sure.
Aha. Now, we're going to jump back to her other book. When did you write this one? Is this...
Our Family Spirits, I started it as a Vella series on Amazon Vella. And then I decided I wanted to publish it as a book as well, and as an ebook. It's all a collection of stories, and I gathered it by town. I like to organize things so that people know where they are. And those are all by town, where the different towns where the episodes happened.
Yeah, I mean, she's got this... You're an organizer. She's terrific. You know what, I'll look at the pictures you drew, and I want to color them. That's me. I want to color them. Did you draw the pictures yourself?
No, those pictures, I was trying out. Lisa had told us about AI. And she said there are some AI drawing programs that you could try. So I tried 2 different AI drawing programs, and I do it in the beginning where I explain the book and everything. I talk about the 2 programs that I used. I used one program for doing the chapter section pictures, and then I used one program for doing each episode.
AI, what's that called?
Artificial intelligence, and it's a big controversial subject right now.
Oh, she's got this listed right down. Now, they're by town, just as she said, Uxbridge, Plymouth, Milford, Hopedale, Upton, of course, New Britain, Connecticut, and New England Encounters. These were the paranormal, based on the real paranormal experiences in her family, in your own family. Let's start with Uxbridge. What'd you get?
Oh my gosh, that house was so haunted. My daughter-in-law called me one day, and she said, the baby, my grandson Liam, kept looking over in the corner of the living room and saying, hi, and waving. He was maybe a year old, and it was her grandfather's house. He lived downstairs, and they had the apartment upstairs. And she said, I took pictures of it, and look at this. She sent it to me. I was living in Florida at the time, and she said, look at these orbs. And there was one orb, and I said, oh my God. So I tried printing. At first I kept looking at it, and I'd hold it up to the light. Couldn't figure out what it was. And then I printed it, enlarged it, and printed it. And I held it up to a window, and I said, Chrissy, here's what I see.
Yeah.
I see a boy with a Dutch boy haircut.
Yeah.
I see the high white collar. I said, this is insane. I said, this little boy looks like he's like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old. And she said, oh my God, this place was a hospital.
Yeah.
Years ago, and there was a children's ward.
Makes sense to me.
And I still get goosebumps thinking about it, because I could see him in that blob of ink. When I held it up to the window, I could see him.
This was in Uxbridge. Plymouth, what'd you find there?
Plymouth was the lady in white,
Yes.
or the lady in blue. The lady in blue was this lady who must have lived in that house at some point. Again, it was 2 family members that rented the upstairs and the downstairs. She only showed herself to the men in the family. She didn't show herself to the women.
Yeah.
One fellow was backing away from the driveway one night, and he looked over, and there was a rocking chair on the porch. And he looked over, and he saw this woman
Yeah.
in a blue suit rocking in the rocking chair. And he looked back, and she was gone.
Yeah.
He was totally freaked by it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think most of us would say, oh, whoa, and then
Yeah.
take a look at Milford, it says boogie things. What happened in Milford?
Oh my God. So we had an apartment in Milford. It was right on East Main Street.
Yeah.
And my son Sean was about 3. Yeah, he was 3 because Patrick was just a baby. And he would sit at the top of the stairs, and these were creepy old stairs. It was an old house.
Yeah.
In the old section, and he would sit at the top of the stairs, and he would throw used tissues down in there, and I'd say, Shawnee, what are you doing?
Yeah.
He said, I'm feeding the boogie tings. I said, what do you mean you're feeding the boogie tings? He goes, they like these. And he would throw these tissues that he'd blow his nose in and throw them down.
Yeah.
So that's what I based that story on. And our basement there had the same type of basement that I have in the story, where it's half cement, half dirt. And you say to yourself, what's buried under here?
We're talking with Sue Lovejoy, and she's the author of these 2 books. We're talking right now about our family spirits. Sue, one more time, how can they reach you?
They can email me at Susan B. Lovejoy. They can get my website, susanblovejoy.com, or they can email me at lovejoysusanb@gmail.com.
Are you up for giving presentations and book signings?
Sure.
Okay. Bear that in mind if you'd like to have her come to your facility. Upton, secrets in the flooring. What happened there?
That's a story that was told to me by another relative, and it was right around the corner here somewhere. It was a house that had a reputation for 3 wives had disappeared. Just
3
disappeared.
wives disappeared?
3 women had disappeared that were married to this one particular fellow over the years. And so he told me that years later, when they were doing some construction on the house or renovations on the house in the basement, they had to take the basement floor out, and there were remains found in the basement of the floor,
Here in Upton.
as well as an animal remains, like a dog.
So this fellow, this man with the wives that disappeared, didn't sound like the kind of guy you want to be around.
No.
I think he buried his... But they only found one person there.
We're not sure how many sets of remains there were, because there were, I think it was 2 or 3 women that were killed over the years, or that disappeared over the years. And the story would always be they went back to their family up in Maine, or they went somewhere else. So
This guy was a busy guy. When was this? What year do you think? I forgot.
I don't know. I'd have to look back at my
I've
notes.
forgotten too. New Britain. Well, you jumped. New Britain, Connecticut. The caretaker.
All right, the caretaker was a family member of mine who moved into this house. They bought this old house, he and his partner, and they moved in, and he had a dog who used to get really sickly and needed to go to the bathroom. So instead of staying upstairs in the master bedroom while the dog was sick, he would sleep downstairs in the basement with the dog so that they had easy access. It was walk outside. And he said that there were incidences that made him believe that there was a spirit caretaker of the place.
Yeah.
There was also a caretaker's cottage in the property, and he said that at one point the owner moved the caretaker into the basement property where he was and rented the caretaker's cottage out to get more money. So it was based on some of the stories he told me about this place. And of course, you have to fictionalize and add to make it a little bit better, you know.
And Hopedale?
Hopedale was the house that we first owned.
So you first lived in Hopedale, right?
My first husband and I
Yeah.
owned Hopedale. And when we bought it, I had no idea there was a spirit attached to it.
Yeah.
I started having dreams when Patrick was a baby about a man. Like one day I had a dream about a man sitting in the hallway, and I went to cross over him. I was carrying the baby, and he reached up to touch my baby, and I said, "Don't you touch my baby."
Yeah.
And he said, "I'm not here to hurt him. I'm here to protect him." And then we had an incident where a few months later, I left the boys upstairs watching TV while I ran down to throw some washing from the washer into the dryer, and I heard Patrick cry. And I said, well, that stopped quick, so he's okay, I guess. Then I saw an ambulance, no, a rescue wagon, and a police car coming down. In my mind, I saw them coming down my street, and I booked it upstairs, and there's my son sitting on the floor, blood pouring out of his mouth. He'd gotten hold of a Christmas bulb and had chewed it and had all this glass in his mouth. And sure enough, after I made that phone call, down the road comes the rescue wagon.
This is amazing. The house sitter, tell us about that.
The house sitter was my friend next door, who actually sat for my house, took care of my house for me while the boys and I were on vacation after their dad had died. And he was there with her. He kept flipping shades up on her. Every window she walked by, the shade would flip up. She'd go in the bathroom to put makeup on, and the lights would flicker off and on, and she yelled at him. She said, Ronnie, stop it. Just stop it.
Yeah.
I know it's you.
Yeah.
And she said it stopped.
She knew.
She knew.
Well, again, we've been talking with Susan Lovejoy, and she is the author of Our Family Spirits, stories based on real paranormal experiences, and Love Gramma, a grandmother's advice on life, love, and finding yourself. She's explained how you can get a hold of her books online if you'd like her to come and give a presentation. Plans for our next book before we close. You got another one coming up?
And we'll have her Alien Children out.
Okay.
Which is another book, and then I have 2 children's books that are already out, and then I'm working on The Secret of the Little People, which is based in Upton.
That sounds like the beautiful nose. As we close, hold up the your She's a Crafter. You'll catch her at the fair on Saturday.
Hold up my
November
babies.
4th, yeah. It is November 4th, right? Yeah.
November 4th, Saturday.
Look at that. She makes every single one of them, especially the candy cane one. Turn him around. Look at this.
Yeah.
Just in case people are wondering about how much do they cost.
$10 for the little guys.
Okay.
For anything larger, I charge $15 to $20, depending on the size.
Very reasonable. Oh, yeah. You bring your kids past Sue's table. Good luck getting past it, because I know, as myself as an adult, I'm taken with them. Can you imagine what the kids are doing? So you all set for Halloween? I don't think they're going to come to our house.
They don't come to our place either, so.
I know it. Thanks for being with us. And you've got those new other books that are already out. We need to get those out there, too. It would be a great idea. Okay?
Come back.
Come on the show. She's very prolific with her writing, and she's right here in Upton, and we've got one of our own. It's so cool. Thanks for being with us, Sue.
Thank you.
We'll get her back. We'll see you next time with you, my guest.
Riding on a shooting star, heading out toward a dream. Tomorrow's even closer than it seems.